I hope everyone likes how I've positioned my microphone. I spent like 20 minutes trying to figure out how to position it. Very exciting stuff, but damn it, I spent so much money on this microphone. You might as well see it.
Hello,
Hey everyone, I'm Bia,
I'm Katie.
and live
I'm
from
from New
New
England.
England, it's Twilight
Hi.
tonight. Bow, 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 bow.
That's
Bow,
beautiful.
bow.
So, guys, if you're new here, each week we dive into a new chapter of our current book. Right now, we're reading Twilight, the first book of
Yes.
the Twilight Saga by Stephenie Meyer.
Katie, what Twilight character best represents your week?
Okay, Bia, so I feel like Mike, okay? And bear with me because I
I
don't.
was gonna say I felt like Mike.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page. I feel like Mike because I'm really looking forward to the holidays, and Mike has been looking forward to this damn beach trip forever. So I love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's my favorite. That was last week, and it was great. It was amazing. I had such a good like break from work. Got to see a
Ugh,
bunch of friends and fa friends and like Charlie's family, so I feel like my family.
exactly.
And yeah, it was really nice. And I was looking forward to that for so long, and I finally got it. And Mike has been looking forward to this fucking beach trip for the whole book. And it's
Yes.
finally happening. So that's how I
Woo.
feel. Bia, would you like to explain why you feel like Mike?
Yes, and you know what? It's funny that you, I don't know. I just think it's so funny because your Mike perspective, your feeling like Mike is so positive, and my feeling like Mike, well, okay. So it is Wednesday when we're recording this, and so I'm really thinking like about the past like 3 days. I can think about the weekend as well. Thanksgiving was wonderful. I had a wonderful time. What I'm trying to say is, I feel like Mike because I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Bia's had a long week,
I've had
okay?
a long week, and I feel like Mike after he got turned down by Bella, where he's just like sulking in the classroom. But then, like, he's fine, like he's fine, and he walks Bella like away, and he still goes to the dance. Like, he's fine, but he was just mad that he didn't get Bella. And it's not that I didn't get anything, I'm just mad. I also almost wanted to say that we're going to get into this, but I feel like the native tribe that sets a ban on vampires because I want to set a ban on the energy vampires in my life.
Energy suckers.
Yes.
Yeah, work. No, it's okay. We're very thankful to be employed. We love our jobs.
I really am. I really do.
Like, no, seriously, I love it. It's amazing. I love having a job. It's so awesome. Uh,
Wow. And to think that only a couple weeks ago, see how long.
Shut up. Shut your damn mouth. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I was really not just, I just wasn't having a good time in life. And Bia was like, you gotta, because I was saying a lot of negative things, okay?
Mhm.
And Bia was saying I need to be positive. And you know what? Look at me being positive.
Look at you. Look at you looking on the brighter side of things. I think that's very important.
No, it is. You're exactly right. I was resistant to it as I am. So anyway, guys, we have
Ah,
a great chapter today. It's
yes.
like it's a moment from the movie, so I feel like everyone's gonna be familiar with it. We've got
Yes.
a little sprinkle of some like just like bitches.
Bitches, mad bitches in this
Bitches.
fucking episode, this chapter. It is
Honestly, it's freaking Lauren. I'm glad they left
Lauren.
her out because she's just bringing Bella down.
She
So
really is.
we're on chapter
But
6.
okay, sorry, we'll get into it, but
I
Bella
was gonna
is a
say
little bit
we're
of a pick me in this episode.
oh, absolutely.
Um,
Bella, we know that about Bella,
mm,
but I feel
mm,
like
mm.
we are still like we'll get
We'll
into
get
it.
to it. We are on chapter 6, Scary Stories. Actually, before we get into that, um, I didn't even write down a last episode recap, but last episode, Bella what like nearly passed out in her biology class because they were doing the blood testing. And then Edward like grabs her clammy self and drives her home. And we learn a little bit about Edward.
They have a lot of dialogue. So I feel
Yes.
like he reveals a lot about himself. In the car ride home, they talk about his family a little bit, right? Am I right
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah, yeah. They do. And it's very brief. Like it's already things that if you know Twilight, you already know these things that like his
that?
parents died, like his parents adopted him. I feel like Bella really didn't ask any questions that were pressing. She's sort of asked things that were like, and you love them? Yeah, of course he loves his parents, Bella. Anyway, so that was last chapter. This chapter is scary stories. And I would like to say, I guess before we even get into the contents of the chapter, while I was looking up the little audiobook on YouTube, when you look up Twilight Chapter 6, there are a bunch of like faux movie trailers, and I just wanted to show you these like AI generated.
Oh my God. It's AI. It's always
It
AI. Stupid.
it looks like,
Oh.
tell me these pictures look AI. Do they not?
Ew. It looks like that fucking, oh my God. You know that fucking guy on TikTok? This was before I deleted TikTok. Not to be annoying, but he makes like AI shit of celebrities. Like he uses his body and he did one of Edward of Robert
Oh,
Pattinson. And
yes, the one of him
freaky.
doing
I
the
don't
apple
like
dance.
Yes, like it doesn't look like him. It clearly is AI, but like it's just still weird. It's just weird. People are weird, but whatever. He's probably making bank from it. Yeah. So, but we listened. Me and Bia actually read this chapter together over Discord. Bia played uh, the audiobook for us, and it was lovely. Um, but yeah, so scary stories, lot less dialogue in this. There's still dialogue, but God, I feel like last chapter was just like little quips back and forth.
No, yeah, yeah. There were a lot. We really read a lot last chapter because they were saying so much and there were so many, there was a lot of
It
context.
was hard to
Um,
summarize.
but yeah, this chapter does have some dialogue, some very important dialogue. We learn
Really
a
important.
lot of important things about the characters. So
And we
starting
meet a
off,
character, guys. We meet a character.
yes, we meet a
So
huge
yeah.
character.
So it starts off, Bella's in her room. She's not looking forward to Friday, as she has said so many times. She's not looking forward to going to the beach.
And she is also sort of worried about people talking about her fainting in biology, I guess. And she says on page 110, Jessica especially seemed to get a kick out of that story. That is just a little tease at all of the just things. Okay, bitchy
Yeah.
things.
So it starts off right at the bottom of page 110. So what did Edward Cullen want yesterday? Jessica asked in Trig.
I don't know, I answered truthfully. He never really got to the point.
Which true. Like truly they were going in circles, like they were talking about everything and nothing. Like he never like he just initiated because he's just messing with her at this point.
Yeah.
And she goes, "You looked kind of mad, Jessica." And then Bella was like, "Did I?" I don't know. They're so interesting.
They're
It's just
being
cool.
snarky to each
I
other.
feel like their friendship's so interesting to me because I feel like it's just so surface level. Obviously, like Belle's not into it, but I don't know why. Like at some points, I understand the Mean Girls a little bit because I'm like Bella doesn't like whatever. We'll get into it. I'm sorry, we keep saying that, but yeah,
Listen, no, I think you're right. You make a good point because sometimes the mean girls, they sort of make some sense because Bella, in this chapter, I am sort of reading it and I'm like, okay, Bella, like she's a little bit of a pick me in this
I get
chapter.
it on both sides, absolutely.
Exactly.
Because this is what after they kind of like after Jessica says, you looked mad. She says, I've never seen him sit with anyone but his family before. That was weird.
Yeah. Bella says, weird. I agreed. She seemed annoyed. She flipped her dark curls impatiently. I guess she'd been hoping to hear something that would make for a good story for her to pass on. So
That's
Bella is like, oh, she's just gonna spread rumors about me. Bella's thinking very highly of herself. I will say she is the belle of the ball. Like she's the shiny new toy. Everyone does talk about her, but it's kind of crazy to think that everyone's also talking shit about her behind her back. Like
she's a little paranoid. I think
she
I
is
get
paranoid.
it. They also give her a lot of reason to be paranoid. So I feel like okay, so she's wishing that Edward's gonna be going to the beach because she invited him to the beach last chapter, which we know we know things that we know why he can't go there, but she doesn't. So
She's still hoping. She's keeping her hopes up and she is just like, I know that he's not coming and that's the worst part about Friday and I miss him so much. She looks over at the Cullen table and she sees all of the Cullens talking together. Edward is not there. It was just Rosalie, Alice, and Jasper. They were all like huddled together and talking. She says, and I couldn't stop the gloom that engulfed me as I realized I didn't know how long I would have to wait before I saw him again. Oh my God. This is so
she's just so it's so high school crush and it's so she's so dramatic and I eat it up. I think it's hilarious,
I
but
do.
sometimes it is like, oh my God, it's sickening.
It
Uh,
is.
so she gets to lunch with Mike. He's raving about the weather. He's gonna be like, oh my God, it's gonna be almost 60.
And she said,
And
I'd have to see that before I believed it.
sassy.
About the sun coming out.
And then she says, I intercepted a few unfriendly glances from Lauren during lunch, which I didn't understand until we were all walking out of the room together. She was right behind her and she overheard Lauren saying, don't know why Bella, she sneered my name, doesn't just sit with the Cullens from now on. And of course, loyal Mike steps in and he goes, she's my friend. She sits with us.
I think it's funny that Bella is saying that she doesn't understand why Lauren is so mean to her, but then also says like immediately after she hears that, I'd never noticed what an unpleasant nasal voice she had, and I was surprised by the malice in it. I really didn't know her well at all. Certainly not well enough for her to dislike me.
Oh,
Bella,
you
listen
disliked
to yourself.
everyone. Bella disliked everyone immediately. So I don't know. It's the pot calling the kettle black a little bit.
Exactly. And you said loyal Mike. Bella does say that he was loyal in his statement, but also a little bit territorial. And I feel like we continue to see that with Mike. He is, I think that's a really great word for how he acts around Bella.
Yeah. He's just like, she's mine.
Yeah.
But you're going to prom with Jessica or going to homecoming with Jessica. In the movie, actually, I was watching a scene from it. I don't know. Probably for this podcast. And in the movie, she says they're going to prom together. So I think
That's what it is.
yeah, so that is interesting to me. I think they kind of grouped some stuff together. So we'll see how that plays out. But I mean,
Yeah,
we know this takes place in like a lickety split amount of time.
it does.
So that night at dinner, she's talking with Charlie. He's really excited about her trip to La Push. But she also says that she's not going to tell him about the trip to Seattle with Edward, which I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
Bella, breaking the
I
rules.
thought that was very like sneaky of her.
I know. She's so funny.
And then she asks about Goat Rocks, which is that where they're
That's
going
where
for?
Edward said that they were going because they, how they were talking about, oh, we're going camping. Me
Oh,
and Emmett are going camping up in Goat Rocks. I think it's literally like the page before chapter. But yeah, he says we're going to be hiking in the Goat Rocks wilderness just south of Rainier.
oh, thank you for reminding me because
Of course.
I read this and I was like, wait, that's not where they're going. Why is she asking about camping?
I know, it's
Like
so funny.
that makes no sense.
But it's like, okay, and then Charlie literally says, it's not a very good place for camping, too many bears. Most people go there during the hunting season. Edward and Emmett, the hunting season. Interesting.
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 Very important to keep that in mind. We'll put a little pin in that because it is going to come up.
So she just brushes it off. She's like, "Oh, I probably got it wrong." And then Y'all, she wakes up in the morning
I
and
would
gets
like
a
to read this
surprise.
little section because
Yes,
it
read
is
it,
so
please.
cute. She says, I opened my eyes to see a clear yellow light streaming through my window. I couldn't believe it. I hurried to the window to check, and sure enough, there was the sun. She is so happy. She does immediately say it was in the wrong place in the sky, too low, and it didn't seem to be as close as it should be, but it was definitely the sun.
Nothing can ever be perfect.
No, no,
Not for
not
Bella.
not for Bella.
She meets them at Mike's dad's store, the Newton's Olympic Outfitters store. It's just north of town, and it's Mike's Suburban, Tyler's Sentra. So we know Tyler,
Yes.
the guy who almost hit her, and also asked her out. And there's a bunch of people there we don't really know. Eric was there, who we do know. Ben and Connor. Jess was there, Angela and Lauren, and then three other girls, including one who I remembered falling over in a gym on Friday. That one gave me a dirty look as I got out of my truck and whispered something to Lauren. Lauren shook out her corn silk hair and eyed me scornfully. So clearly we're getting not good vibes from Lauren and also this
Yes.
other girl, but like clearly Lauren is the enemy.
Yes.
It is just so interesting that they didn't include her in the movie. I'm glad. I don't think we need this like other weird like enemy because
Yeah.
there's already like the evil bad guys at the end that we know about. So I kind of get it, but it is just I feel like it would have added a lot more like how do I say this? I don't know, Bella feels kind of one-dimensional in the
I was
movie.
gonna say it would have added a lot more depth to her like school setting.
Because I get that she hates it. Because I
Yeah,
feel like yes, we got Jessica in the movie being kind of like sassy and self-centered, but I feel like no one was ever so mean, and I never understood why Bella was just like so against them. Um,
right.
and also Mike was less annoying in the movie. He's so goddamn annoying.
Yes. All I feel like all of the characters are really annoying. Well, like they're more annoying in the book than they are in the
We're
movie
just
so far.
also we're getting a lot more of them. So I
You're
think
right.
that's mm,
You're right.
exposure.
I would like to add this is when the pick me starts because right after they notice that Lauren and this blonde girl is looking at her weird, she goes, "At least Mike was happy to see me." And okay, fine. Maybe she's just happy that there's like somebody who's happy to see her,
Funny for that.
but it's just
Honestly, I feel like you're right, and I wasn't underlining as much as I should have as her pick me moments because there was quite a few.
there were.
Yeah, so Mike is shocked that she's there, and she's like, "I told you I was coming," which I get why he's shocked. She never comes
Yeah,
out with
she
them or does
seemed like she
anything with
didn't want to
them.
go, so
They're waiting for some people, and then he asks if she would ride in his car. He's like, it's that or Lee's mom's minivan. And she says, sure. He smiled blissfully. It was so easy to make Mike happy. And then he says, you can have shotgun, he promised. I don't know. The Mike and, or not Mike, yeah, the Mike, Jessica, and Bia Bella alert, Bia Bella alert.
Thea mentioned.
The Mike, Jessica, and Bella stuff, it makes me just sad because I'm like, okay, I'm a little sad for Jessica. Obviously, like Mike's annoying about it, but also it's just so pathetic. He's just so pathetic.
Yeah.
No, but she literally says, I hid my chagrin. It wasn't as simple to make Mike and Jessica happy at the same time. I could see Jessica glowering at us now.
Yes. And once they actually get in the car, things work out, and she's able to sort of wedge Jessica in the seat between
In the
Mike.
console, it seems.
Yeah, like yeah, thank you. In the console of the car. And she says, Mike could have been more graceful about it, but just seemed appeased. So, she continues to do a lot of this political, diplomatic, like behavior,
Managing the
always
people,
trying to
yeah.
appease everybody.
I was gonna say they have a beautiful drive.
They do. There's a lot of beautiful descriptions in this chapter. And
Yeah.
you can see that maybe Bella doesn't hate nature all that much, but she's very specific about what she likes.
Yeah. It's only 15 miles to La Push from Forks, which is like not bad, especially because all the roads are probably like 55, 45. They're probably like fast, you know.
Yes.
Um, there's a wide, winding Quileute River. I like this description at the bottom of page 114. She said that she'd been to the beaches around the push with Charlie in the summer, and she says the water was dark gray, even in the sunlight, white-capped and heaving to the gray rocky shore. Islands rose out of the steel harbor waters with sheer cliff sides, reaching to uneven summits and crowned with austere soaring firs. Honestly, she goes on for a while.
She does. I wrote in my book, Bella loves beach
Bella loves
because
beach. Yeah.
she does. They're beautiful descriptions,
I
and
mean, yeah,
she's
what if I just read the rest? It honestly is, I like, she talks about the rocks. Okay, she says the
yeah.
beach had only a thin border of actual sand at the water's edge, after which it grew into millions of large, smooth stones that looked uniformly gray from a distance, but close up were every shade a stone could be: terracotta, sea green, lavender, blue-gray, dull gold. The tide line was strewn with huge driftwood trees, bleached bone white in the salt waves, some piled together against the edge of the forest fringe, some lying solitary just out of reach of the waves. Beautiful setting. And I feel like
It's
that is
beautiful.
basically what we get in the movie. It's like a gorgeous beach. You've got
Yeah.
trees, the black, kind of like the black dark. All right. How about that, y'all? So where were we? Oh, Bella's beautiful description of the beach.
Yes.
Bella loves beach.
Bella Heart Beach. Yeah, we do get a very similar setting in the movie. And Bella does touch on this later, but I think it's really, I mean, we've seen how perceptive Bella is, and I think it's really sweet that we get to see some scenery now because I feel like up until this point, I don't know, I guess we got her
No, I
room,
agree.
the
I think you're
school.
right. I think you also said last episode that there was like a time where she finally was happy about the weather. Like, and I think that she's finally getting more excited about things and at least not like obviously she's still classic Bella, still like an angsty little teen and not always happy about everything, but I feel like it's finally like it's a breath of fresh air from the first couple chapters where she's just like, "Oh, I hate everything. I hate the rain. I hate everything." I don't know.
Yes, thank you.
So,
No, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
yeah. So I feel like in this beach beach scene, there's like a couple different parts
Mhm.
because they first get there, Mike sets a little driftwood fire, which is I don't know, I like this part. He's like, "Have you ever seen a driftwood fire?" And he gets
She
really
says it's
excited.
blue.
Yeah, like everyone gets really excited and he lights it up and it turns blue. And he's like, "Oh, the salt does it. Pretty, isn't it?" I don't know. I love a bonfire and I want to do a fucking driftwood bonfire because that sounds amazing.
I tried to look up a video of a driftwood fire, but you can't like see
You
anything.
can't tell.
Yeah. While I was editing, I found a cool video on r/Twilight. You can see the blue pretty well. So if you're watching the video, you can see it here.
But then after that fire, they're just chatting around, and then someone's like, "Oh, we should go on a little hike to the tide pools." And Bella's like, "Oh, this is great. I love the tide pools. I loved them when I was a kid." But classic clumsy Bella, she had fallen into them a lot. And I think this is a funny line. She says, "Not a big deal when you're seven and with your dad." But and then she says it reminded me of Edward's request that I not fall into the ocean. So clumsy Bella, guys.
Clumsy Bella. Then, right after this, she says, Lauren was the one who made my decision for me. She didn't want to hike, and she was definitely wearing the wrong shoes for it. Most of the other girls, besides Angela and Jessica, decide to stay on the beach as well. I waited until Tyler and Eric had committed to remaining with them before I got up quietly to join the pro hiking group. Mike gave me a huge smile when he saw that I was coming. Maybe I don't
He's
need to keep that whole quote in there, but this was a huge pick me moment, in my opinion. She's like, oh, she definitely wasn't wearing the right shoes for hiking. I'm wearing sneakers because I'm a sneaker head. I don't know.
No, I think if I'm glad that Angela and Jessica also went on the hike because I feel like if not, I would have been like, oh my God, Bella on a hike with a bunch of boys, come on. Um, but I literally wrote down bad at the end of that paragraph because Mike is truly like the whole episode, or not episode, the whole chapter. He's just like giddy about everything that Bella like says and does. I don't know.
Seriously.
I do want to point out whenever we were reading this together over Discord, we got to this next line and it says, "The green light of the forest was strangely at odds with the adolescent laughter, too murky and ominous to be in harmony with the light banter around me." And Bia just goes, "Adolescent laughter." And I don't know, that was like the only thing I feel like you said that whole time, and it really caught me off guard.
It's a weird term. That's
Yeah,
the
it is
difference.
funny.
That paragraph, I was sort of confused because the green light of the forest was strangely at odds with the adolescent laughter, too murky and ominous to be in harmony with the light banter around me. Actually, I got it now. I just really needed to read it out loud to myself.
But then they finally get to the tide pools, and she's like, "Others were fearless, sleeping around the rocks, perching precariously on the edges. I found a very stable-looking rock on the fringe of one of the largest pools and sat there cautiously, spellbound by the natural aquarium below me." Do you want to read this next part? I feel like
Yes,
it's,
I do.
yeah, please.
I have so many like stickies on here because I would like to say a big shout out to Deep Marine Scenes on YouTube. They make
Mhm.
these tiny little like fish videos, and this reminded me of it, and I love
It's
ocean.
amazing.
The bouquets of brilliant anemones undulated ceaselessly in the invisible current. Twisted shells scurried about the edges, obscuring the crabs within them. Starfish stuck motionless to the rocks and each other, while one small black eel with white racing stripes wove through the bright green weeds, waiting for the sea to return. I was completely absorbed, except for one small part of my mind that wondered what Edward was doing now and trying to imagine what he would be saying if he were here with me. Okay.
Ridiculous.
It just could, like, I'm glad I read that whole thing because it is so silly. She sees an eel with racing stripes and she's seeing starfish and crabs.
She's thinking about fucking Edward Cullen.
She's like, I wonder what he would say about the eel.
Amazing, incredible. It's so gorgeous. Those damn, I love a tide pool. I loved playing in tide pools when I was a kid. So
I don't think I know what a tide pool is.
I feel like Massachusetts beaches are, they don't really have them because they're so
And
flat and like long and
yeah.
like the tide goes out for miles or whatever. But in South Carolina, they had, I went to a beach called Sunset Beach growing up. It's actually in North Carolina, but they always had tide pools. It's basically just like when, I could be explaining this wrong, but this is always how I thought they got formed. But if people like dig holes or anything, or just like the waves will create like little, basically little pools in the sand, and then
Um,
when the tide goes out, those are filled with water, and then you can kind of like play in them.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This is,
I've probably
yeah,
seen one or two of them.
yeah, you probably have, but I don't know if there's common up here. I could be wrong. I literally have no
Yeah, I'm
idea.
thinking of like Brazil beaches.
Yeah, who knows?
Brazil mentioned.
Brazil.
That's great. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So,
So the boys get hungry. She says, I tried to keep up better this time through the woods, so naturally, I fell a few times. She scrapes her palms and, like, she's falling, like, fully, just hands and knees on the ground.
So they get back to the first beach. They get back to first beach, and they realize the group has multiplied. She says, "As we got closer, we could see the shining, straight black hair and copper skin of the newcomers. Teenagers from the reservation come to socialize." So it is obviously they're up in La Push. The food is being passed around. The boys hurried to claim a share while Eric introduced us as we each entered the driftwood circle. She ends up sitting next to Angela. And I think this is kind of interesting what she says about Angela because I was like, oh, this is going to be sweet. And then she says, it was relaxing to sit with Angela. She was a restful kind of person to be around. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And then she says, she didn't feel the need to fill every silence with chatter. I don't know, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, damn, Bella, okay.
She really, I feel like, hates Jessica and Jessica's chatter, and so she thinks about her all the time. She says she left me free to think, undisturbed while we ate. And I was thinking about how disjointedly time seemed to flow in forks. passing in a blur at times, with single images standing out more clearly than others. And then at other times, every second was significant, etched in my mind. I knew exactly what caused the difference, and it disturbed me. And so I want to pause there because the difference is
Yeah. I literally said I wrote in my book, Bia said this because I think last episode you were talking about one of the lines in the chapter four and oh
wait,
I think maybe even chapter three. It was a I think it was chapter four because I think it was when she was like we were like, oh, 6 weeks passed and they were like, oh my God. But it was because Edward was out. And I think you had made a comment like, yeah, because she's not thinking about like everything that's significant is happening to her is Edward related, basically.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that is so significant because right now she's writing about all of these little things. And like you said, she's just starting to see more things that she appreciates and that she likes. But at the same time, every time that we have a beautiful description of nature or anything, it's followed by a little note of, but what if Edward was here?
Yeah, no, for real.
And it
Um,
disturbs me too,
I
Bella.
accidentally skipped over a crazy important part.
Oh my God, yeah, you did.
Okay. I did that. I was really thinking about Angela.
And I had it underlined and I was just like, yeah, no, that's probably, we don't need to say that. Let me say that all I caught was that one of the girls was also named Jessica, and the one boy who noticed me was named Jacob.
Bum bum bum.
Jacob.
I also want to note that the guy or the boy who introduced everyone from the reservation, he looked to be the oldest of the visitors, and there were seven other people with him. So as we kind of get to, as in New Moon and everything, as we get to know Jacob and all of his friends,
I
we're,
think
we're
they're all related.
like friends, cousins, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
all in the
Okay.
same.
Yeah, I guess you can be friends with your cousin.
Okay. Thank you, Bella. Oh my God. So the during lunch, the clouds start rolling in, people start kind of slinking off together, and she kind of takes this moment to take note of everything. I feel like that's maybe a way to say it. She's kind of like
Yeah,
looking
she's
at
just sitting there and people watching.
yeah, literally. She's like looking at Lauren and Tyler who are playing with the CD player, and then she notices Jacob and the boy who acts as a spokesperson, so the older boy. And then Jacob ends up coming over to her a couple minutes after Angela left. And I think this explanation of him,
Yeah, this
when we
description.
get, he looked 14, maybe 15, and had long, glossy black hair pulled back with a rubber band at the nape of his neck. His skin was beautiful, silky and russet colored. His eyes were dark, set deep above the high planes of his cheekbones. He still had just a hint of childish roundness left around his chin. Although a very pretty face, however, my positive opinion of his looks was damaged by the first words out of his mouth.
You're
She,
Isabella Swan, aren't you?
it was like the first day of school all over again. Bella, I sighed. She's so dramatic.
He introduces himself. He is Jacob Black, and he says, "You bought my dad's truck." And so she's relieved and she's like, oh my God, that's why you called me Isabella. That makes sense. And she goes, "Oh, you're Billy's son. I probably should remember you." And he says, "No, I'm the youngest of the family, so you would remember my older sisters." So that's some good background knowledge to know because in the movie, they say that they used to play like kitchen together or something like
Or like make
house.
worm pies or something.
Yes, yes, I think that's what he says.
Like mud pies. Yeah.
Yes, it's they would make mud pies.
They shorten it. And I think in some of the later movies they do have like him have siblings, but I don't remember him mentioning them at all in the first movie. So
Mm-mm.
interesting little difference there.
I don't remember Rachel and Rebecca mentioned in the movie at all, so
When he gets sick,
I do.
I feel like maybe I'm wrong.
There's so many guys there, and like I remember the girls because there's only like two of them.
Uh,
I don't know. Maybe they are named Rachel
I
and
don't
Rebecca,
know.
and I just don't remember. We'll have to do a watch along soon.
They went off to college. One of them got married, and they're just chatting about the truck. Jacob's like, "Oh, it's so slow."
Yeah. Oh, and he asks her, well, she says, "Oh, it's not that slow." And he goes, "Have you ever tried to go over 60?" And she says no. And so now I know that Bella sucks to be behind
Well,
in
she's probably
traffic.
not going on the highway. She's probably going from work, or not work, she's probably going from school to her house and
I mean, yeah, I
to the
just
grocery
imagine, I guess
store.
I don't know what the roads are like in Forks, but I imagine that it's like similar to Connecticut where you're on the highway. Like,
Yeah, you ever,
you know,
I guess I literally have no idea.
I have no idea. Comment down below.
You live in Forks. Do you know? He's talking about like fixing up the cars, and he's like, "Oh, she's like, oh, so you build cars?" And they have some banter, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yes, they're laughing a lot. They're giggling with each other and joking, and I circled a lot of those because she doesn't have that with Edward. And
I
you know
know
what?
it's like
I'm gonna start
right.
it right from the jump, starting the Edward versus Jacob fight immediately as soon as we meet Jacob because Edward is not funny. He's funny to himself. He laughs at Bella. He laughs at his weird little inside jokes about,
Dick.
yeah,
His
he
laughs are all
sucks.
condescending.
Yeah, he snickered with his eyebrows at slanted.
It's so funny. And then there's a moment, they're just kind of talking. Lauren comes in again and is like, "You know Bella, Jacob?" In what I
Which
imagined was an
Lauren?
insolent tone from across the fire. And he says, "Oh, we've sort of known each other since we were born." And I think that's, or since I was born, because he's younger.
And Bella says something really funny. She's, well, Lauren says, "How nice." She didn't sound like she thought it was nice at all, and her pale, fishy eyes narrowed.
Bella, that is so funny. She's
What
always
the
just,
hell does fishy eyes mean? Does it
I'll
mean
never
that she has eyes on the side of her head?
I'll never get over her description of Eric being like this pale, pimply boy or whatever the fuck she said
The
about it.
chess club type.
Yeah, no, that was insane. And then she brings up the Cullens.
Yeah,
She says, "Bella, I was just saying to Tyler that it was too bad none of the Cullens could come out today. Didn't anyone think to invite them?" Her expression of concern was unconvincing.
she's
And
such a bitch.
he is such a bitch.
Sorry. And then the big tall guy, the older boy who was introducing everybody, he goes, "You mean Dr. Carlisle Cullen's family?" Oh, Lauren's sort of like, ugh, I wanted Bella to answer. But then she's like, "Yeah, do you know them?" And he says, which is a line from the movie, "The Cullens don't come here." He said in a tone that closed the subject, ignoring her question. Going down a little bit further in the page, she's just thinking about what he said. And he said that the Cullens didn't come here, but his tone had implied something more, that they weren't allowed, they were prohibited. Yeah.
Cray cray.
And she just keeps thinking about it. She can't ignore what he says. And Jacob's still trying to chat with her. He's like, "Ah, how you like forks?"
And then she has an evil plan,
Yes.
like truly an evil plan. And I wrote next to this, which maybe is, I wrote, she started it.
She did start it.
She
He's
fucking started
younger than her.
She started it.
She's
So she literally says, "I was still turning over the brief comment on the Cullens, and I had a sudden inspiration. It was a stupid plan, but I didn't have any better ideas." Yeah.
But yes, she's evil. She did start it. I can't believe that you said that because I wasn't even thinking about it but yeah, he's coming up to her being super friendly. He's just being friendly. And she says, like you said, "I had a sudden inspiration. It was a stupid plan, but I didn't have any better ideas. I hoped that young Jacob was as inexperienced around girls so that he wouldn't see through my sure to be pitiful attempts at flirting."
She literally says, "Do you want to walk down to the beach with me?"
Wow,
I
Katie, I've
asked.
never seen this side of you.
She literally says, "I was trying to imitate that way Edward had of looking up from underneath his eyelashes." Yeah. She's obsessed with Edward. It's really it's a lot.
Yep.
Jacob was very happy to go with her, obviously. She's a pretty
Yeah.
girl.
And I'm not gonna lie, now that I'm reading it and I'm gonna read it out loud, it is sort of creepy. Like, not only hearing, like, I had hoped that young Jacob, but now she says, so you're what, 16? Oof. Oh my God, Bella, what are you doing?
I fluttered my eyelids the way I'd seen girls do on TV.
So you're at
Oh, and she says,
16?
I should say another pick me moment. She actually says, trying not to look like an idiot as I fluttered my eyes the way I'd seen girls do on TV. Just do it. And then he literally says, I just turned 15. Oh, yikes.
Bella.
And she's really shocked. He goes, I'm tall for my age.
She's not actually shocked. She
Oh,
is full
really
of
false.
false surprise. And she's just like, oh my God, no way. He's like, yeah, I'm tall. I'm tall for my age. And she's like, oh my God, like, do you come up to Forks much? Bing,
Not
bing,
too
bing, bing,
much.
bing.
Not too much. But when I get my car finished, I can go up as much as I want after I get my license.
He's a baby. What are you
Just
doing,
turned
Bella?
15, like a freshman in high school or something. She asked who was that other boy Lauren was talking to? And it's the older guy who kind of introduced all of them. He says, that's Sam. He's 19.
He's like,
Which, okay, Sam, 19-year-old, hanging out with fucking Jacob, 15.
right.
Whatever, not the end of the world.
And she goes, well, what was he saying about the doctor's family? I asked innocently.
Yeah.
My hands get
Oh, the Cullens. Oh yeah, that the doctor. I think he worked on me when I got in that crash.
Oh
No, she doesn't
yeah,
say
yeah.
that, but she's so funny. And then he says, "The Cullens? Oh, they're not supposed to come onto the reservation." Wait, she says, "Why not?" He goes, "Oops, I'm not supposed to say anything about that."
Oops.
Jacob, but now Jacob.
And she's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm not gonna tell anyone. I'm just curious."
I'm just curious and hot, and
And
you're cute.
she says, I tried to make my smile alluring, wondering if I was laying it on too thick. Again, another pick me moment. Just smile, Bella. It's okay.
He smiled back though, looking allured.
Guess
Then
it
he
worked.
then he lifted one eyebrow and his voice was even huskier than before.
Do you like scary stories?
I love them.
I love them.
I love them.
Uh, making an effort to smolder at him. I love them. They sit down on this tree. Jacob strolled to a nearby driftwood tree that had its roots sticking out like the attenuated legs of a huge pale spider. I just thought that the use of the word spider here was interesting and stuck out to me. And I looked up what like spider could represent, and I really didn't find like much, but I mean, obviously, spider represents so many things, so it was just like, but I thought it was just like interesting because she's sort of trying to trap him into
The story.
exactly telling her the truth. And then at the same time, I guess the word spider is just like gonna get you in the mood for scary stories. So
Oh, that's funny. Honestly, yeah, I think both make sense. I'm with you.
Jacob asks her, do you know any of our scary stories about where we came from? The Quaaludes, I mean? And she's like, no. He says that there are a lot of legends, and he's like, oh, some of them are, biblical. And he says another legend claims that we descended from wolves, and that the wolves are our brothers still. It's against tribal law to kill them. Then there are stories about the cold ones. His voice dropped a little lower.
The cold ones? I asked, not faking my intrigue now.
Yes, there are stories of the cold ones as old as the wolf legends, and some much more recent. Oh, recent cold ones. According to legend, my own great grandfather knew some of them. He was the one who made the treaty that kept them off our land.
He rolled his eyes, which I think is interesting because he also had that little moment where he was like, he smiled to show how little stock he put into the history. So I think we do make note of that, that he doesn't really believe any of this,
Yes,
seems.
yes.
And she was like, oh, your great grandfather. And he continues.
He says that his great grandfather was a tribal elder, like his father. You see, the cold ones are the natural enemies of the wolf. Well, not the wolf, really, but the wolves that turn into men, like our ancestors. You would call them werewolves.
And she's like, werewolves have enemies?
Only one.
So this is, y'all, this is big. This is big.
Huge, huge.
And she,
Jacob basically says that his ancestors, like not far away ancestors, like great grandfather, was a wolf, a werewolf.
yes. Or
Okay,
he
maybe
doesn't
he's
really
not saying
explicitly
that.
say that. He just says, I think he's
He
just saying
knew
that
some
they
of them.
descended from wolves. And that was like what used to happen. I don't know if he was saying his great grandfather was because he doesn't believe it.
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
don't think he's
So,
saying. So basically, then he continues and says, so you see, the cold ones are traditionally our enemies, but this pack that came to our territory during my great grandfather's time was different. They didn't hunt the way others of their kind did. They weren't supposed to be dangerous to the tribe. So my great grandfather made a truce with them. If they would promise to stay off our lands, we wouldn't expose them to the pale faces. So the pale faces, I made a note by because what does that mean? Is the pale faces white people? Like, what does that mean? Is that other vampires? Is that the Volturi? That was my guess. But how the fuck would the wolves know about the Volturi? You know what I mean? What are the pale faces?
yes, it actually, I looked it up. It is a white person formerly used in stereotyped representation of the speech of North American Indians. So,
Okay, so they're okay.
I think he's sort of poking fun at the stereotype that like native tribes call white people pale faces,
Okay.
or Stephenie Meyer is not sensitive at all and she thinks that that's what native people say.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be
That
both.
was an interesting. I'm like, that feels like a weird way to say that, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like when I think back to the movie, I always thought that he was talking about the vampires when he said pale faces.
mm,
And
yeah, it's a little
that's not the
confusing.
case. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bella's like, oh, if they weren't dangerous, then why? There's always a risk for humans to be around the cold ones, even if they're civilized like this clan was. You never know where they might get too, or you never know when they might get too hungry to resist.
Which I kind of I this chapter is not very hot. I only used one hot mark and that was it. Because what um
Okay,
because they might get
weird.
too hungry to resist.
Yeah. So she's like, "What do you mean civilized?" And this is when he drops that, they don't hunt humans, they hunt animals. I feel
And
like this all is very confusing. If I was Bella, I'd be like, okay.
yeah, no, she's just like, okay, so your grandfather, his grandfather was a
Great grandpa.
tribal, great grandfather was a tribal elder, like his father, and there are stories of wolf people.
That they're descended from wolves and that there are werewolves.
Yes, and then there are stories of the cold ones who are the werewolves' enemies. And she's like, all right, well, cool, got all of that. How does this fit in with the Cullens? Like, are they like the cold ones that your grandfather met?
No, they are the same ones.
Boom, they are the same ones. What?
There are
What?
more, he says there are more of them now, a new female and a new male.
But the rest are the same. He says, in my great grandfather's time, they already knew of the leader, Carlisle. He'd been here and gone before your people had even arrived. And
That's
then,
crazy.
yeah, what? Imagine hearing that. You're hearing that his great grandfather knew Carlisle. Carlisle looks like a hot piece of ass now.
And she asks, what are they? What are the cold ones? Blood drinkers. Your people call them vampires. she gets goosebumps. She's just like, "Oh, you're a good storyteller, blah 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 blah." Crazy, guys. We meet Jacob and he tells all of this in one chapter.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
And she is scared. I mean, she has goosebumps because she's realizing, okay, I think this is real.
I mean, yeah. She literally, and then he says, I guess I just violated the treaty. Just
Yeah. And I underlined that and I wonder if that is gonna come up in the future.
I know.
Like, I don't remember having anything of that in the movies, but it would be interesting to see if like he gets
It
in
really
trouble for
would.
it.
We'll freaking see.
And he does say, don't say anything to Charlie. He was pretty mad at my dad when he heard some of us weren't going to the hospital since Dr. Cullen started working there. And I think it's interesting because, and this, I'm going a little off the rails, but just be with me for a second. In New Moon, when Jacob starts transforming, which this is not spoiler free, guys, sorry, they don't go to the hospital. He stays at home. And I, watching the movies only, always thought that it was because like they didn't want him to like turn, but it's
But
probably
it's
just because the doctor's a vampire.
that's crazy. Damn. Okay, so now we just got our scary story over with. Guess
Phew.
who comes back? Mike.
Yay. Oh my God.
Our heads snapped up at the same time to see Mike and Jessica about 50 yards away.
50
50
farts
yards
away.
away. About 50 yards away, walking towards us. There you are, Bella, Mike called in relief, waving his arm over his head.
Oh my God.
I literally wrote gross and pathetic. Jacob goes, because I think Mike's still like, obviously 50 yards away. And Jacob's like, is that your boyfriend? She goes, no, definitely not. Yeah, they're just chatting. They're kind of saying bye. He's like, oh, so when I get my license, she's like, you should come see me in Forks. We could hang out sometime. And I think this is
Oh, I,
oh
I gotta go back to after she says, no, definitely not about Mike being her boyfriend. She turns away from Mike and winks at Jacob. You definitely are spot on that she fully started this. Like she is egging him on.
yeah.
He smiled, elated by my inept flirting.
And she really likes Jacob, but she just as a friend. She's like, I feel
Yeah.
guilty that I said this, knowing that I'd used him, but he could be a good friend, basically. So, you know, at the end of the day, they do have a good friendship sometimes. I don't know. They're just talking. Jacob was telling her some stories. Mike's a little jealous. He's a little possessive, as we know.
Hmm.
And they're packing up. It's gonna rain soon. And I literally wrote no because Bella was so excited about the freaking sun.
Yeah.
And Jacob says it was nice to see you again. And Bella just is like, yeah, I think he's taunting Mike, which yeah, it's really easy to taunt Mike because he's a fucking little dopey
He's
little
a
guy.
nerd. Yeah. And
Okay.
Bella says, next time Charlie comes down to see Billy, I'll come too. And his grin stretched across his face. That would be cool. I drew a little heart next to that.
It's cute.
They are so sweet and they're really just
Yeah.
genuinely happy.
And then they get in. She's packed in the car with Lauren and Angela and Tyler and everyone, and they go home. The end. That's the whole.
The end. I'll say that the last line, not the whole line, but she says, I could simply lay my head back on the seat and close my eyes and try very hard not to think. Which I think she doesn't want to go insane thinking that everyone is a vampire and a werewolf. So she's like, no, they're just stories. Um, but I'm excited to see what's next. I hope she does Googling on the book, in the book.
I hope she does some Googling too.
Well, Google was Google around back then?
Yeah, it was like 2007, 2004.
This was written in
It was
2005.
2000. Yeah. Okay.
Key takeaways.
Mm.
Lots of key takeaways.
We learned so much in this chapter.
His great grandfather knew Carlisle, and that's my key takeaway.
And she also has learned about werewolves and vampires. And this, obviously, they were treating it as like not, it's just a story. But
Right.
Bella has all these things about Edward. She's picking up on things, and she has been since she met him, basically. And this is crazy. If I learned this, I would immediately go home and start Googling stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the next chapter. I think it's going to be fun and exciting, a chapter of discovery. And I don't know
Yes.
what's it
Chapter
called.
7, Nightmare.
Okay.
I'm scared.
I
I
think I
think
know
it's
what
gonna be
happened.
good.
I'm excited. But yeah, all right.
Just as a reminder, I'm Bia,
I'm Katie.
and
This
this
has
has
been
been
Twilight
Twilight
Tonight.
Tonight. Thanks for listening to this whole thing. If you like what you heard, leave a like wherever you're listening and let us know where your favorite part was. Subscribe to follow Edward and Bella's romance on Twilight Tonight.
Okay. I think we're delirious.